join us here today. My name is Jaike Spotted Wolf. I'm a member of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Salish tribes out of North Dakota in so-called Turtle Island here, so-called America, Turtle Island. Currently in Wauyatanong, which is otherwise known as Detroit, Michigan, coming off of the Line 3 fight in Minnesota, gearing up for the Line 5 fight out here in Michigan. The United States has a very long established relationship of trying to minimize, marginalize, and oppress female bodies here. It starts with colonizers coming over. Of course, the resource that they wanted at the time was land, agriculture, to the point where they knew that if they starved the chiefs out of all of the tribes, and that meant also, chiefs' wives, that that would buckle them, and they would get to the point where they would make the arrangement to give up their children, to send them to residential schools, so that the colonizer could then strip this indigenous child of their name, of their culture, their identity, their language, make that all very illegal until 1978, to the point where you would be arrested and thrown in jail for looking indigenous. And it goes on throughout the decades. So once residential schools started to slow down, then we go into the 60s, where there's intentional sterilization of female bodies, where we have women on reservations single-handedly having many, many children beyond the point of their bodies being able to, healthily have these babies so that they can try to continue to save whatever their tribe was. And this was intentional per the indigenous or the Indian Health Services. So this is a United States government entity that is coming in and saying, we don't believe that indigenous children here in the United States are good or worthy. We believe the Indians are savages, and that's still written in our Declaration of Independence. And that we are going to try to eradicate this race altogether. So we're, now in 1960s, 1970s, and now we've got current day foster care, where indigenous are taken from their native parents on a daily basis. In the 60s, 70s, they were sold for $5 a piece to white families who the United States government could do a better job of raising these children. Now, where this comes into modern day resource extraction, we've got a law that was put into place by Supreme Court Justice Rehnquist in 1978. It was Oliphant versus Suquamish. That law said that you cannot be tried on sovereign territory if you are not native or indigenous, right? That law means that when we have these men come into these man camps along these pipelines, they won't be tried the same way that an indigenous person would. Since the ball falls into the hands of the FBI or federal courts, they tend to get busy, lose track of the cases, and nobody's ever tried. So it's almost well known in Indian country that you could come onto a reservation, and if you are white or non-indigenous, you can commit a crime such as trafficking, such as rape, torture, assault, and you won't be tried for it. The FBI also underreports the statistics for race when it comes to indigenous women being missing. They'll misidentify race as white, Latine, anything but indigenous, so that when they're asked, they can say, oh, we don't have the numbers that the indigenous communities are saying that we have. So there's this big disconnect in terms of the laws that are there that are supposed to protect us. They don't. When we sign these treaties with the U.S. government and with colonizers, they made them to systematically and purposefully eradicate the Native American, be it through the lack of communication that we had at the time we were signing these treaties, be it now through forced poverty, and we don't have representatives, at a government level, oftentimes even at a state level, to come in and say, here's what we need done in our communities, have firsthand knowledge as a Native person, and this is what I need from the government. And even if we did, my guess is it would largely go unnoticed. There are about 300,000 bodies of children laying on the grounds of residential schools throughout the United States here, and that's not counting Canada. Kamloops last year up in Canada was the first school to have found bodies on their school grounds from these residential boarding schools. Deb Haaland of the United States government here came out last June saying that they were going to do a search here in the United States, and there has not been one school yet searched and or any bodies turned over to tribes and those bodies sent back. So my feeling of the United States government caring when we have something like the Northern Lights Task Force, which was the force paid by and for Enbridge of local cops up in Minnesota on Line 3 to come in and annihilate, eradicate, torture the water protectors that were up there on that line. The government did not step in. President Biden, there were over 1,000 arrests, right? President Biden didn't blink an eye. The Governor Tim Walz didn't blink an eye. We didn't have intervention when it came to a foreign company paying for law enforcement to come in and brutalize water protectors. So I have no hope in that the United States government will protect me as a Native body. I am pretty sure I'm, surveilled on some level, and that's a risk I'm going to have to take if I'm going to try to protect future Indigenous babies and generations. So very much thank you for having us here, and I hope that this report makes an impact to someone, somewhere, because the United States government ain't going to get it done.